Manila in 1892, the city is restless. People are talking about big changes. On June 26, 1892, Rizal came back to the Philippines. He met with other Filipinos. They hoped for a better future. Soon after, Rizal started La Liga Filipina. It was a group to help Filipinos learn, work, and grow together. But the Spanish leaders didn't like it. Rizal's ideas worried the Spanish. He was arrested. His dream of a united Philippines seemed to be over. Then after his arrest, Rizal was exiled to Dapitan, a small town in Mindanao. People often think that this was the end of his story. But what really happened during his exile? Is he really imprisoned behind bars? What are the common misconceptions about life of Rizal in Dapitan?
Many people think Rizal was very unhappy during his 4 years in Dapitan. They think he was in prison, alone, and very sad, but that's not true. When Rizal arrived in Dapitan on July 17, 1892, he was watched by Spanish guards. But he was not treated like a prisoner. He stayed in a big house called Casa Grande, which belonged to Captain Carnicero. Captain Carnicero was in charge of watching Rizal, but they became friends. This shows that Rizal's life in Dapitan was not as sad and lonely as people think. Something good even happened to Rizal during his time in Dapitan. After 2 months, he won a big amount of money in the lottery. He won 20,000 pesos, which is a lot of money. He shared the prize with 2 other winners, including Governor Ricardo Carnicero. Rizal used his winnings to buy a big piece of land by the sea in Dalisay. This shows that Rizal's life in Dapitan was not one of sadness and loneliness, but one of hope and new beginnings.
During his 4 years in Dapitan, in 1892 to 1896, Rizal was not confined in prison cell. He was a deportee, but he had the freedom to move around and live in the community. The Spanish authorities allowed him to build his own home and carry out his various professional pursuits. He built a main square house where he lived in his family and called Casa and octagonal house Casa Redonda. His clinic is Casa Cuadrada, a school dormitory. These structures were not prison barracks but rather a testament to his autonomy and industriousness. Furthermore, Rizal embraced the role of an educator. He established a school in his octagonal house where he taught young boys reading, writing, Spanish, English, and other subjects. He didn't charge his students for tuition, instead asking for their help with farming and other chores, which highlight his practical and selfless approach to education. This work as a teacher and doctor demonstrates a life that was rich with purpose and connection, directly contradicting the notion of him living in misery and isolation.
You know, a lot of people get the wrong idea about Rizal's time in Dapitan. They think he was completely alone, cut off from everyone, like he'd been sent to the edge of the earth. But that's not really how it was. He wasn't totally isolated. His family actually played a big part in helping him through it. His mother, Teodora Alonso, she was amazing. She visited him all the way in Dapitan. It was a tough journey for her, especially at her age. But she went to be with her son to comfort him and give him the motherly love. Those visits really gave him strength. And his sister Maria, she came too. She brought news from home, updates about the family, and helped him feel connected to his life before. It really lifted his spirits, reminding him that he was still part of the family. It's true. And Rizal also made a new connection in Dapitan. He met Josephine Bracken there. Yes, meeting Josephine changed everything. She brought love into his life and gave him a new sense of purpose. They fell in love right there in Dapitan, and she became a huge part of his life during those years. He has his challenges, but he also made friends, kept up with the family, and even found love. He wasn't cut off. His time in the Pitan was tough, but it was also filled with human connection. So we need to remember too that the story showing how strong and human Rizal was, even when times were hard.
While Rizal indeed practiced medicine and shared his knowledge as a teacher, his activities in the Pitan went far beyond those rules. When he arrived in July 1892, he lived with Don Ricardo Carnicero but did not confine himself to a life of sadness or limitation. According to the NHCP, Rizal became deeply involved in farming, planting fruit trees, raising animals, and even buying land in Talisay using his luxury needs. He cultivated lanzones, mangoes, cacao, coffee, coconuts, and many other fruits, while also tending chickens, pigs, and ducks. He also learned farming techniques from local people, including the Saganing community, and made agriculture part of his daily routine. In his letters, he admitted he was not a farmer by profession, yet he found joy and fulfillment in his peaceful life close to nature. This shows that Rizal was not limited to medicine and teaching. He also embraced farming and community development as important parts of his exile in the Pitan.
It is true that Rizal was skilled in medicine and passionate about education. Rizal's life went beyond those fields. He was just not a man of books and healing. He was also deeply interested in practical ways of improving the lives of ordinary Filipinos. One example of this was his farming initiatives during his exile in the Pitas. According to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, Rizal became involved in the abaca trade, recognizing its importance as a valuable product for both local use and international trade. He worked with the community to cultivate abaca, seeing it as a way to create livelihood and support economic growth. This shows that Rizal's mission was not limited to medicine and teaching. He also wanted to empower people by promoting agriculture and self-sufficiency.
Rizal also built engineering projects like the water system. In fact, in 1895, Jose Rizal did design and construct a water system in Talisay, a barrio near the Pitan, with the help of his students. This private water system provided clean water for his farm and household needs. Rizal's water system was an engineering feat that utilized local materials like bamboo, clay, and brick pipes. This system followed the contour of the land using gravity to flow water from a mountain stream to town. There were two separate water systems in the Pitan, which is the Lina Water Works, which served the public, and Rizal's private water system in Talisay. Both systems showcase Rizal's expertise in water management.
This project improved the health and sanitation of the residents. Historians emphasize that this work reflects Rizal's dedications to public service. Even while exiled, he continued to serve and uplift the lives of the people around him. According to historians such as Gregorio Zaidi and Ambes Ocampo, Rizal did not waste his years in exiles in the Pitan. He used his knowledge of engineering to design the Talisay water system. Rizal's water system was praised by an American engineer, Cameron, who recognized his engineering skills. Cameron noted that Rizal's system was well designed and constructed, despite the limited resources available.
Many people think that Dr. Jose Rizal was only a writer, a reformist, and a national hero. The common misconception is that his contributions were limited to literature and politics. But in truth, Jose Rizal was only deeply involved in the field of science and natural studies. Through his keen interest in observing plants, animals, and the environment, he sent these specimens to the Museum of Europe, especially the Dresden Museum. In payment for these valuable specimens, the European scientists sent him a scientific book and surgical instruments.
Rizal also built up a rich collection of conchologies which consisted of 346 shells representing 203 species. He discovered some rare specimens which were named in his honor by the scientists. Among these were Dracula rizali, a flying dragon, Apogonia rizali, a small beetles, and the Rhapocorus rizali, a rare frogs. Rizal contributed in natural science. He discovered and naming a rare specimen show how Rizal's effort reached beyond history and literature. Rizal highlighted that he had a scientific mind, capable contribution to natural science, his curiosity, careful documentation, and love for nature, reflecting holistic intelligence that went beyond politics and the struggle for reform.
Having a closer look at Rizal's artistic and literary works during his exile in the Pitan, it offers a profound reflection of his era and his unwavering love for the Philippines. They provide a unique window into the soul, revealing his deep connection to our country and his aspiration for its future.
His life, marked by travel and exile, profoundly influenced in his poetry, most notably in El Canto del Viajero. So this piece explores themes of longing, displacement, and the search for peace and purpose, emotions deeply rooted in his personal experiences.
Yes, truly. Rizal's range of artistic and literary achievements is really impressive. The Mother's Revenge sculpture, for example, not only demonstrates his ability with his hands, but also his passion for telling stories that touch people's hearts. Himno al Talisay and El Canto del Viajero are more than just pieces of writing. They are window into Rizal's mind, revealing his hopes, dreams, and sometimes even his sadness.
His paintings, sketches, and poems also highlights his deep observance of life and his desire to inspire change. Collectively, these endeavors remind us that Rizal was not only a hero with a pen, but also an artist who used many forms to fight for what he believed is right.
Many people mistakenly think that Dr. Rizal was in favor of the Philippine Revolution of 1896 and openly supported the Katipunan's call for an armed uprising against Spain. This is a misconception, because while Rizal truly wanted freedom and reforms for the Filipinos, he did not believe that violent revolution was the best way to achieve it. The fact is that Rizal believed in peaceful reform and opposed the violent revolution. In his manifesto to certain Filipinos in 1896, Rizal clearly condemned the revolution. He stated that reforms, if they are to bear fruit, must come from above, showing his belief that peaceful means and dialogue were better than violent rebellion. In his letters, such as one to Ferdinand Blumentritt, Rizal expressed concern that an armed revolution would only bring more suffering and destruction to the Filipino people, who were not yet fully prepared to govern themselves. Rizal even refused offers to lead the revolution. Instead, he proposed gradual reforms through education, civic organizations, and legal means, believing that true independence must be achieved through moral strength and intellectual growth. Thus, while Rizal inspired the revolutionaries through his writings, it is clear that he personally opposed the use of violence. He remained firm in his stand that freedom gained through education and peaceful reform would be more lasting than one won by armed